mannequin challenge, because nobody's moving the camera around. That's going to date this. Somebody's going to be watching this potentially in about 2 years' time and go, what the hell's the mannequin challenge? It was like the ice bucket challenge. Everybody did it for about a week and then forgot about it. So, Saturday, 26th of November, and going to crack on with 3 tonight, because I need to get ahead of myself. But would have done some last night if it wasn't for ill middle child and ill mother. So she was in a bad way, so I was babysitting and nurse and everything, which was fun. So I'm now kind of like on this day, and I need to get ahead. So 3 tonight, the first of which is this one, which was very, very kindly donated by Barry Bradford of thewhiskeyfiles.com. So please do go and check out his blog. He is a lovely bloke, and his blog is lovely as well. So Knockando, not to be confused with Knockdhu. And Knockdhu made sure that they're not confusing it with Knockando, because they are now known as Anok, which was the original term for that area. So Anok is little hill, and Knockando, or it was probably Knockdhu. Do we've covered across before, which is black, so it's little black hill. So Knockando, little black hill. Anok, or Knockdhu as it was previously, was Black Hill. Sorry, do is black, Knockdhu. Yes, so Knockdhu was probably a bigger Black Hill, and Knockando was a littler Black Hill. I'll get there in the end, it's fine. It's Saturday, it's late, and I haven't even started yet. The distillery itself is here, and it was founded by a guy called John. Now I'm going to call him John Tytler Thompson rather than John Titler Thompson, because I'm a gentleman and I'm not rude like that. But his middle name is Tytler, so I'm going to go with Tytler rather than Titler. And he founded the distillery in 1898, but he didn't do a particularly good job because it closed down the following year. But as we've covered off before, around that time, very late 1800s, so 1897, 98, 99 to the turn of the century, very, very difficult time for distilleries. A lot of them were opening because it was a bit of a boom, but it was right at the end of that boom, and a lot then just couldn't make it for the next couple of years because the market totally bottomed out. So it closed in late 1899, and it was then bought in 1904 by a company called W&A Gilby, who were a gin producer, and I'm sure they were based down in London, but I'm probably wrong. So they ran the distillery and pretty much got everything ticking along quite nicely. And then in 1967, they joined forces with a sort of conglomerate that included Justerini Brooks, or J&B. And Knockando became quite a key part of that J&B blend, which really kept it going strong. It was the first distillery to have electric lighting in Scotland, apparently. I don't know when that was, though. I couldn't actually find the date for it. But over the years, it became part of, I think it was UDV, and then it ultimately all part of these conglomerates and acquisitions that became Diageo, and it is still with Diageo now. It's quite a big seller in France and Spain, so it's not that easy to get hold of in the UK. It's around and about. You will find it. I can remember selling it in the whisky shop, but it was never in any great quantities. Now this particular one, their standard bottling is a 12-year-old, but it used to be in vintages, and I don't think it is anymore. So this one is a 1997 vintage Knockando 12-year-old. The standard 12-year-old looks like this on the shelf, and you're looking at about 35 quid a bottle for it. You will find it in supermarkets. I have seen it in supermarkets, but it's not massively prevalent, predominantly because a lot of it is in blends, and also it's quite big in, like I say, France and Spain, kind of southern-ish Europe. So a lot of it gets shipped out there as well. So what I found is that the vintages, even though it's a 12-year-old, the vintage versions, because you've got like a date for them in terms of when it was made, when it was bottled, obviously the older the vintage, even though it's still a 12-year-old Knockando, and it's kind of they're maintaining the consistency all the way through, so it's near as damn it going to taste like the bog standard 12-year-old that you're getting now, but I'm certain it's not a vintage, because you've got that date of that's when it was made, so it's actually an older bottling rather than an older whiskey. It does put the price up. I think I saw somewhere saying about the 1999 vintage for, I think it was about 60 quid or something like that. So it's possible that this 97 is called creeping up. So anyway, the actual whiskey itself, it kind of looks quite light, but not at the same time. It's a lighter kind of golden colour. Now, whether colouring's been added to it or not, I don't know. It's entirely possible it has, being Diageo, because they're sort of known for doing it, unless it's their ultra rare stuff. It's a little spirity on the nose, and it's got that slight artificiality that reminds me of colouring. It's quite harsh. It's surprising. It's a bit spirity. It's a little bit nutty, but it's a sharp nuttiness as well. And there's a sort of citrusiness, but it's a little bit sour on the nose. There's sort of nuts, and there's sort of a almost pininess, but it's quite a concentrated, sharp pine smell. It's not unpleasant, but it's not great. It's not wowing me. It's a little bit acrid and a little bit sour for my liking, and a little bit artificial as well. And that kind of continues on the palate as well. It's really sharp. There really is quite a kick. It's 43%. But I'd argue, if I was trying it blind, that's 46. It's got quite a bit of a bite to it. It's quite sharp. The citrusiness comes through. While it's not as sour on the nose, it's a bit more of like a lemon curd. So there's a bit more sweetness to it. But it's quite a sharp lemon curd. So you've got the creaminess of the curd, but the lemoniness of it is a bit sharper than you would probably want from a curd. But there's a real fieriness, there's a real heat there, all around the mouth. There is some oakiness to it. It really feels younger than it is. It really feels like it's not a 12-year-old, something like an 8-year-old. It feels really young and tight, and like it needs more maturation to really open up. It's almost like not quite a cask strength, but there is a fieriness to it that's actually overpowering some of the flavours that are there. Like I say, there is some citrusiness, there is some oakiness, but it's a mild oakiness. There is some toffiness, but it's really ducking down below this wave of sharp kind of, I'm going to use Chris Cook's favourite word, it's this prickle around your mouth. It's this kind of almost fizziness, which just seems to dominate everything. It's a shame. It's a little disappointing, unfortunately, because it doesn't feel like it's giving me everything that's there. It really feels like it's holding a lot of flavours back. And I'll be honest, it's quite hard to drink. It really does bite at the back of the throat. It gets your tongue and the roof of your mouth not on fire, not like it's a 60%, but it really is sharp, and there's quite a sour note to it. And then if you get it wrong as you swallow, it really does kick the back of your throat. And it's hard to drink. It's really hard work. And there's arguably better entry-level single malts for a lower cost than this. This just feels unbalanced. Now, it's entirely possible that with the vintage structure that they've had, if not still got, that there are going to be better vintages than others. It's entirely possible that you could pick up a 1999 and it's a lot better than this. It might just be the nature that they're doing it. If they're doing it in batches per year, it's entirely possible that they aren't maintaining a lot of consistency, and it does vary from year to year. And it might just be that this is a weaker version, in terms of, not weaker as in percentage, but weaker as in the balance isn't as good, and it's just not as forthcoming as it should be. It feels like there's some interesting points in here. It feels like the citrusiness, the lemon curd element of it could be good with the sort of toffee feel, with the little bit of oak that's there, but it's just not working. It reminds me of a relatively relatively cheap blended whiskey. It's got that slight artificial note of lots of colouring added. It's got a graininess to it. It's got the harsh, almost metallic, sour edge and spiciness, but it's not particularly pleasant spiciness of grain whiskey along with single malt. And it really is like a slightly unbalanced blended whiskey where the grain is just slightly too dominant and it's a little bit harsh. And it's a real shame. It's a real shame because I was kind of looking forward to that. It's one of those I've seen on the shelf every now and again and gone, I wouldn't mind trying that. You know, that seems to have a bit of, I don't know, a bit of kind of unwritten quality about it. But if it's all like that, I'm afraid not to my cup of tea. If you're looking for a whiskey with a bit of bite and a bit of kick, then this will probably float your boat. But I think, to be honest, there's probably better versions of whiskies that were going to give you a bit of kick and a bit of bite for probably a little bit less as well. So thank you, Barry. Thank you very much for the sample. I would love to know what you thought of it because it's just a little bit off balance. It just doesn't work for me. But for some people out there, it probably does. So that's me done. That wasn't too long, a bit longer than I wanted it to be. So we'll crack on with the next one. Cheers.